Good Friday morning. Jerry Miller, thank you very much for joining us. This, Real Talk, an insider's guide to life, liberty, real estate, and the pursuit of happiness on the I Love CVille Network. It's powered by the Yes Team Realtors, Keith and Yonna Smith, trusted advisors in the real estate game. Michael Guthrie is going to join us in T-minus 3 minutes. Chief Executive Officer of Roy Wheeler Realty Company, Quinton Beckham, will join us at roughly 10:50 on this program as we get a broker's perspective of the real estate market reopening. Before we do, Judah Whitcower, our director, please let's welcome the distinguished gentleman to the show, Keith Smith. Big time news in the headlines. Jim Ryan feeling like he had to give a little bit to folks that were very curious. Not the whole plan, but a little bit of the plan. Students returning to grounds in abbreviated fashion with the semester concluding right before Thanksgiving. So let's start with that. Keith Smith, the show is yours. Good morning, my friend.
Yeah, good morning. I was thinking, I like that shirt you got on there.
Thank you. Little Vineyard Vines. The wife has got good taste, so does the mother-in-law.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I don't do that.
There you go.
All I have to do is put on my shoes.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's questionable sometimes.
I have been wearing shoes lately.
Yeah.
When he knew me in the early days, it was rainbow sandals.
Look at that. You got actual shoes
I
and socks.
got shoes on, Keith.
I'll be a son of a gun. So we were going to talk a little bit about the impacts of COVID-19 on the market with these two rock star brokers and incoming former president and incoming president of Carr, and I'll talk a little bit about the value that realtors and real estate agents bring to the table. But I think we're going to pivot a little bit, and I have not had an opportunity to talk to Michael about this great news, and I'm looking forward to asking his opinion on it and see where the conversation goes from there.
It's going to impact so many things. We have regional landlords and local landlords throughout the city of Charlottesville that are breathing a sigh of relief because they're not going to have to offer maybe a semester's worth of rent rebates. We have a corner shopping and retail district that's breathing a sigh of relief. Frankly, the entire Central Virginia corridor, if you think economic development, breathing a sigh of relief by this news.
So to kind of get a little direct about it, UVA is the 10-ton elephant in the room.
Right.
UVA is the heart that pumps everything we do here.
Right.
And, there was some discussion, I remember early on in this, that UVA may not ever come back, or there's a percentage that the students may never come back.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's not the case.
Right.
So that's exciting. I think that should give a boost of confidence in the community. But again, I just can't wait to hear what Michael's read on this is.
Michael Guthrie is going to join us in T-minus 45 seconds on today's program. While I get Michael on the line, and Judah, I'm going to reach out to him now. How about Marie Bett, Jason and Patrick?
Yeah, so I got my morning coffee from them. Everybody's all masked up. This is great stuff. I always make a point of asking the guys over there, how's business? And the business is good, so that's great. And steady, so you can't X any more than that, and they're just a great bunch of guys. Yeah,
Marie Bett on Water Street, Rose Hill Drive, fantastic place for coffee. We have Michael on the line. Judah, I'm getting a little reverb on your end, Michael. Do we have a speaker on over there? Okay, we got you. Michael, I love this man. This man is a broadcaster of tremendous proportions. He's a community leader. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Roy Wheeler, loves to volunteer and make Charlottesville a better place. Judah, do I have your thumbs up to welcome Michael Guthrie to the show? We do. Michael Guthrie, you're live for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We're getting out of your way. Good morning. The show's yours, sir.
Hey, good morning. Good to be with you guys. And not to put a little bit of a wet blanket on what is really positive news is I just want to encourage you guys not to get too far ahead of yourself as to what the announcement was yesterday. I had gotten a little bit of inkling about this a couple of days prior because, as you know, I'm involved with some of the coaches over at UVA, and they had said privately that they thought this was the direction that the university was going to go. I had not realized that UNC and Notre Dame had already announced that they're actually coming back a couple weeks early.
Yeah.
And so it's my understanding that if everything goes the way they hope it's going to go, that yes, they'll come back at regular time. Yes, they'll finish before Thanksgiving, but the final exams will be done virtually. So they'll leave at Thanksgiving and then prepare for their exams. And instead of coming back like they normally would, they'll be taking their final exams from wherever they went to, as well as putting themselves in a position to be able to teach online, because there's some people who aren't going to be able to come back. They're in a different country or whatever the case may be. So, and then the other thing that's really interesting, if I understand it correctly, is that the big classes, like for instance, Ken Elzinga's economics class that everybody loves.
I took that class,
right? Yeah, so did I. That class, if I'm understanding correctly, that class will be online, even though people are on grounds, because it's too many people to social distance. So the good news is that they're moving that plan ahead, but it wasn't. We are doing it. It said if everything goes well, we're still looking at June to make that decision, but we wanted to let people know that's the direction we're taking. And the key right now, and I don't know if you want to go this way, Keith, but the key right now is the numbers and what the university gets from the governor, what the university gets from the health people. And my take on it, and I'm no idea, but I personally believe that even though we're seeing the numbers every day, when you watch NBC, they show you how many people have been affected. They never tell you how many people are now better, right? And so I think the getting better is much better than the getting sick, although there's still new cases. But I also believe that the numbers as far as new cases, even though it shows that we haven't gotten to the top, supposedly, I think that's because there's more testing being done. Those people were already sick, and there's more testing being done. And so those numbers, if you remember correctly, the governor said he wanted to wait 14 days until after the thing declined. Well, if you look in Charlottesville, we're not even up. We haven't started decline yet. But I think when the people that know what they're doing are looking at these numbers, they're saying, one, the hospitals, there are not as many people in the beds, and two, we've got a situation where the testing is being done, and so we can have more control over whether or not we've really got this in place. But I just think it's still so very, very important that none of us take that we continue to be vigilant. And just going back to this show and being a former president of CAR, and I know Quinton's going to be on. I was just on a call with Quinton an hour ago. And the cool thing about our association in our area is that even though we're competitors, we work together. And I was on a call today with all these brokers talking about how do we go about reopening? When do we go about reopening? So that it's a concerted effort and it's not one person do it one way and then somebody say, well, they're doing it that way. Why aren't we doing that? And I can tell you that from that call, we're all pretty much in the same place. And it was just so encouraging to see that coming together to try to do it right. And to give Keith, props as well. I think that's one of the things that the university in Charlottesville and Albemarle County are doing so well, that through the task force that Keith is one of the co-chairs of, all these conversations were already going on before COVID-19 came. And so there are these relationships that have been built that are allowing people to communicate with people in a way that maybe they weren't prepared to do. And it really helped us as we go through this, continue to go through this COVID-19 crisis.
I'll pass it to you. Neil Williamson's got a comment on exactly what we're talking about here. This is the impact the University of Virginia has on Charlottesville. This is from Neil, Michael. I'll relay it to you. He's watching. He says, a recent study estimated that the University of Virginia's economic impact on the Commonwealth is $5.9 billion annually, and its operation supports almost 52,000 jobs. Andre Xavier, CEO, CVille Hop-On-Tour, says, great insight, Michael Guthrie. And Michael is exactly right. It's not a full semester opening. It's an abbreviated reopening to maybe get ahead of a second wave that could happen in the winter. What are you watching here, Keith Smith?
I'm watching the eminence here.
Yeah.
Right? The Pope. Right?
I almost hung up the phone yesterday when we were on a training class and he called me the eminence. I almost said, I'm out of here.
Yeah, but look how uncomfortable he's getting. Look at that. That's
All right, let's watch. Let's, what do we got here?
Yeah, oh, come on. He's trying to move the conversation
Yeah,
along.
that's
Look,
why people are watching.
So, Michael, I agree 1,000%, right? This is the beginning, this is soon. But what a lot of people aren't talking about, and I'm just, I read the article last night, the president formed in April a committee to do this, right? So this wasn't, there's some conversations that were going out there that were quite on the negative side, right? And we try to take the positive approach here. This is who we are, right? But, they created this group in the beginning of April to determine the date to open up, identify the safest way to do it, thinking about alternate things, everything you're talking about, a way of doing classes, looking at the way to support the community. So the fact that UVA is in front of this, and this is why I decided to pivot today at the last minute to talk about this, because it's so important for what the economy on whole. Oh. It's so important for
the economy.
What we do, and it raises, we've been talking about this for quite some time, the fear out there, right? And this isn't going to solve the problem today, right? We're not going to say, hey, everything is all better. We're not promoting that in any way, shape, or form. But hey, guys, we got a really bunch of smart people working behind the scenes that are going to move this forward. And one of the things that metrics that we missed is the PPE metrics that the hospitals have, right? That was a big thing. And now the PPE, the personal protection equipment, is up the thing. So, man, I felt that you were the perfect guy to talk about this, right? You've got pretty good connections. You know where. Is there anything else you want to add to this before we jump into something else?
Well, again, I think both Martha Jefferson Centera Hospital and UVA Hospital have now have their own separate COVID-19 wards. They didn't have those 2 months ago. And so when somebody is sick enough that they have to go in, they go into a different entrance in the hospital, and it's contained in a particular area so that, we've got elective surgeries going on again. And people, the next thing I'm really hoping is going to happen is that there's going to be some smart but relaxing of allowing family members to be with their loved ones. I have good high school friends, twin sisters, who lost their brother this week, and the sister-in-law only got to be with him for 30 minutes before he died, and they didn't get to see him. I mean, I think there was some FaceTime and phone call stuff, but they couldn't go, even though they could have if they were able to. They couldn't go be there because they weren't allowed in. Right? I have another friend whose wife has been in and out, and the second time going back in the hospital, he was only allowed to see her for 30 minutes every 6 days. That's going to be a huge thing for people's mental well-being.
Yes.
So the relaxing of that they can do it in a way that it's going to be safe. But here's the thing. Here's the message I've been trying to convey for the last week or so, as the governor has released and is doing some different things. I want people to get outside of themselves on this. There are people that say, I'm not going to wear a mask, and you just have to get over it. There are people that say this person's not doing that. And here's what my message to whoever's listening today is: just get outside yourself. And when you walk someplace, think about, how am I impacting that other person? Is that person going to be worried that I don't have a mask on? Even though I don't think that me having a mask on doesn't make any difference. Don't even go there. Just think about, am I making somebody else feel comfortable? And I'm in a place where I have a compromised immune system. You guys have heard that on this show before. And if I am going out to do curbside or whatever, or even going into the office to pick up paperwork, I've got a mask on. And I've got a mask on because I'm trying to make sure I do whatever I can to stay safe. And so if I didn't have a compromised immune system, I would want to have a mask on, so that if somebody else out there was fearful or concerned, I'm not making them feel uncomfortable. I mean, the Bible says, don't cause your brother and sister to stumble, right? And that's the attitude I want people to take. Is it, yes, you have your rights, and yes, you can do whatever you want, but think about how what you're doing is impacting others. It's great that you feel good about yourself, that you don't have to do this or that you have to do it, whatever. but get outside yourself and think about how am I conveying myself to somebody else? And if we can have that attitude, I think it makes a huge difference in the way we go about living our lives.
It's real simple. Think about the other guy. So we actually were going to talk about today on the show the benefits of using a realtor and a real estate agent. And as you were talking, our first slide, Jude, if you don't mind popping it up, is it's for your safety, right? We bring as real estate agents and realtors into the transaction. We provide you safety. And it's a funny thing, in preparing for the show today, that was my number one slide. That was my number one talking point, that if, we are the trusted advisors, right? That's the word we prefer to use. We're the trusted advisor, that we have set up we set up these protocols. So if somebody comes into your house, we know you can trust us that your safety is our number one priority. And we'll maybe get into the rest of the slides because we're probably going to run out of time here before. And you predicted this, by the way, yesterday.
Can I piggyback
Sure,
on that
course.
for 1 second, though? And Quinton can talk about it as him being the incoming president. Let's just talk about public open houses for a minute when we talk about safety. We're not doing public open houses right now. The governor, technically, the guidelines that they've given us as of yesterday say that you probably could, because you're going to keep it to under 10 people, you're going to limit the people in, you do it by appointment only, blah, blah. But in this call that I had earlier this morning, do you want to be the agent unwittingly that somebody gets COVID-19 and ends up infecting some other people, and so your name is on the news that they contacted it while they were at this open house? Or whatever the case would be. The realtor agency laws are that we are held to a higher standard. Whether we like it or not, we're held to a higher standard. And so even though the guidelines say that we could probably do it, right now anyway, we want to err on the side of caution, and we want to do everything we can, as you just said, Keith, to make sure people feel safe when they go to look at a house, or feel safe when they're allowing their house to be shown. And we're thinking about it from our church standpoint as well, as regathering in our church. Do we want to be a church that ends up having somebody get impacted with COVID-19, and so everybody has to be self-quarantined for 14 days?
So
our church has a lot of medical people in it that if they had to be self-quarantined for 14 days, we're impacting the whole health system.
So we're going to have to bring you back to go through the rest of the slides, but the number one slide was your safety is our priority. So that's our number one priority, and I'm going to slide you back to Jerry. He might have some questions off of the feed.
We do.
But before I do that, thank you as always. And so, slide over a little bit. Let's take a look at that sign behind you. Believe I can. Scratch out the T. I like it. Good
cross out that T. I can, because we can believe, and we can believe in each other that we're all going to do the right thing.
I like it. Judah, I like how you got that graphic on screen there. Looks really good. Let's alternate between that graphic and the video, and I think it would make it even more dynamic and nicely done. A lot of questions I want to throw to you. UVA, even abbreviated fall semester reopening, how does that impact the real estate market, the rental market, Michael?
Well, I think, Jerry, what you just said is right on point. If they're going to be able to come back, and folks are going to be allowed to come back, then the landlords have every right to charge rent. And yeah, they should probably do some leeway for people that can't come back. They're in a place and they're quarantined or whatever the case may be. But that, like you said, that's going to assure the landlords that they're going to get their rent, and that's going to allow them to make their plans. And like you said, it's a ripple effect. When the students come back, the corner changes, everything changes. And so just the fact that the president released this today, just everybody can kind of, as you said, kind of take a deep breath. But again, I just want to caution people that we want to watch the numbers, and everybody needs to keep on doing the same thing so that our town and our city is ready, and they can say, yes, we can do this.
I have some money in a national home builders ETF. Home building permits looking pretty nice here nationally. It seems like we may have a little sprint from dense living, urban environments to suburban, with people wanting to build a home so they can build it to spec to help them manage quarantine and corona, and if this continues longer. Can I throw that to you and get some of your knowledge on that topic?
It's interesting. I just had this conversation with Les Sinclair the other day on his show in the afternoon on WINA. And I think there are two things that we need to be watching. The first one is new construction, for the most part, hasn't been impacted by this. They had things in the pipeline, and they were essential, and they were outside, and so everything is just kind of going along. And now that they pivoted and adapted. They're getting people into C properties and things like that. So they really haven't been that impacted. And that's going to continue to be the case, just as you guys, your bourbon bet. I think that we're going to start seeing, this thing start trending in the other direction. I mean, this announcement by UVA saying that things are starting to get better, that means that June, that the trough was May, and that we're going to slowly but surely move out the other way. So I do think there is people that are going to be wanting a yard, right? Forget the house space, just someplace where they can go sit out in the backyard. Whereas if you're in a condo, and you don't have a balcony, it's a tough situation. I do think there's going to be less sort of a demand for that and more for that. But the other place that I think we really have to watch, and I think I may have mentioned this before, is the independent living type of places. Sure. I think, people are going to, I hate to say this, but I think there are going to be people who are going to think twice now about moving from their home into one of those places now until there's a vaccine, because a lot of those places, they got locked down into their units. And the people that I know are handling it well, and they're keeping their positive attitudes. But man, if I was thinking about that, I'd be thinking twice right now.
I'm going to pass you back to Keith here. Which price point rebounds? What's the price point that rebounds the quickest, do you think?
Well, anything under jumbo money.
That's good. That's true.
And for those of you who don't know, conforming loan, you get up into the jumbo number, which Keith, you may know. I think it's like 6.
No, it's under 6 now. It's 5 and change. We'd have to double check that, but it's under 6.
Okay. Well, whatever that is, that's going to continue to be impacted because that's the area that the investors are most worried about, those higher dollar loan amounts. But anything under that number, first, second, maybe even a third time home buyer, you're going to see. I think you're going to see a real demand, and as you guys have been saying for the last forever, inventory is the key. Because there's no inventory when things come on the market and they're priced right and they're in good condition, and they're safe to walk through. They're going to get the traffic they need to get a good contract with good terms and allow them to move on to doing whatever else they're going to do next.
So Jerry and I's chemistry is working a little bit too good today.
Well, you were going to ask that?
I was going to ask half of the questions that he asked you, and I'm looking. Damn, is he reading my notes? But because I was going to go next, right? So where are you seeing the market going, right? And I just crunched a bunch of numbers this morning about week over week. The last week of going backwards to the same week in 2019, assuming from COVID-19, from the March 24th forward. And we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, and the year over year, we're selling houses roughly $12,000 to $15,000 now higher this year than we were last year, and there's just zero inventory. So what everybody's talking about
that's a great stat.
Is the new spring, June? My glasses are falling off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
It's the mask, right? But we're being responsible.
Is the new spring June?
There you go. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, what are you saying? What's the question you're asking?
Is the new
if you remember correctly, I predicted that the last time I was on the show. You guys were thinking later in the third quarter, and I was saying that what I'm seeing, it could be, June into July, where we really see a move upward. And I think for the most part, the numbers are saying that. What you need to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the other thing I think is important is that price of 12 or 15,000. If I remember correctly, a couple of weeks ago, it was 25,000.
That's correct. It's coming down.
So that number's already started to shrink down, and that makes sense to me because what you had is this before the COVID-19, this pent-up demand,
and no inventory,
and not enough inventory. But all the people were still out bidding on them, so they ended up paying more. Whereas now people are getting better access to properties. Agents have pivoted; they're being safe. They're doing virtual, and yet there are not as many buyers, and therefore you're seeing that those prices get back down to what I would expect to be a 3 to 4%.
He's exactly
increase.
right. The market's adapted.
So
Yeah.
I should just get out of the way and
He's
let you
right.
two guys talk because the chemistry's going great. Because I'm writing notes down. When we first started doing this stat, it was 80.
Really?
Right? Then it went to 30. Now it's somewhere around 15.
And let's recap the stat again. It's a great stat. It's a great stat.
So it's week over week.
Yeah.
Right? The same. I'm just looking at a week snapshot, sold, 25-mile radius, anything that went under contract from 3/24/20 on. And we looked at the same snapshot the year before.
Yeah.
So Michael's spot on, right? There was this rush. The prices went up. The inventory is still super low. I've got another number here on that. Not to
Well, quote that number, Keith, because I think that's really important because it looked like 2 weeks ago, more listings came on that week than a year ago. But last week, the listings were back down again, right? So what is your
So
number
I looked
show
at it a little
today?
bit differently. I looked at it what went active and pending from 3/24/20 to today. So in the same 25-mile radius, and just a little bit of a note, I factored out new construction. No new construction, right? Because that kind of skew.
That's because I always ask
I know
you
that. I just wanted to get that out there. His Eminence, right? I'm Catholic. I'm kind of used to hanging around the Pope, so I got it. So it's interesting. So there's roughly 340 units active, and we went 175 pending.
Interesting.
So it's a nice equal balance, right? But it's still, you'd have to really dig into the numbers, but this is just a really big 25-mile, casting of a net around that. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you dug down into that number, I bet you for sure that's half,
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly right. It's
half went on the market, half
exactly
pending.
right.
I bet you of the half that haven't, the average sales price is much more significant than the half
totally.
that has.
Totally.
So to quote your number, so it seems like the number floating around is roughly 326 is the median sales prices. So you're spot on. If you're under 500 and you're in the right location, price, features, and condition, it's going to sell in 16 days because the median days on market are 16. So. Yeah,
16,
we desperately need inventory, and that'll help us.
It's coming.
It'll help. It absolutely.
Yeah, it's coming. People are gaining confidence. Michael, you're awesome. What are we missing here?
We didn't get to anything we were supposed to get to.
He's great. Can we give him a final word anywhere he wants to go? Yeah.
Okay, as per my partner, final word. Any place you'd want to go? Believe I can.
You know where I'm going to
Believe
go.
I can.
That's right. Well, and that's where I'm going to go. This is a tough and challenging time for all of us. For many of us, I'm 67 years old, and thankfully, I was lucky enough not to have to go to Vietnam. I could have. I was at the age that it could have happened, but it didn't happen for me. And so, for the most part, we haven't gone through what other generations have gone through, like the Depression and World Wars and those kinds of things. But I can tell you that we're going through something that's unprecedented for all of us right now. And I think everybody has to be honest about the fact that it is impacting them. And I'm not just talking about financially. I'm not just talking about, being patient or impatient. I'm talking about the fact that it's impacting you because you're facing an adversity that you've never known before. And the thing that I would say to people is face it, push into it, and have the trust that as you deal with this adversity in the right way, that you will come out a better person. You will come out a person that understands things in a way that you didn't understand it before. And my hope is that you come out a person that will continue to be as generous and as caring and as looking out after others as we are in this thing. Because when we get through this, and Jerry, you and I have talked about this before, when we get through this, there are still going to be the disenfranchised. Sure. There are still going to be the marginalized that would need our help, and we need to just keep on doing what we're doing now, so that gap can be
narrowed,
brought more closer. Yeah, more closer. Closer.
So
together.
in wrapping it, this is something that's been passion of mine, and something that I'm really trying to do with this show is, the affordability index is going to get worse.
Oh, yeah.
And there is going to be people that are going to need our help, and that's the people we really need to be keeping on our front of mind and doing that. Michael, man, it's always a pleasure.
Awesome.
I love having you here. Unfortunately, we're getting the hook. We're
Mike, you're
No,
also
but
Michael.
you're great. You're in great shape because I got this baton right now, and I'm handing it
there
to
you
Quinton.
go.
And I know where Quinton's coming from, and he's coming from the right places.
Well, we're going to tap into
I
that.
probably stole some of his thunder in regards to some of the numbers, but he's right on point with what he's going to be.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Michael.
joining us, Michael. You're the best. Have a good one.
You guys
Good to
take
see
care.
you. Judah, I'll give you a heads up when we get Quinton Beckham on the line, Keller Williams, broker. Give us about 90 to 120 seconds, Quinton, and we're going to reach out to you. Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
The market adapted. Early in COVID, the realtors were unsure how to show the houses that were on the market. There was still pent-up demand for the product that was on the market. That pent-up demand probably led to multiple offer situations and caused the sales price, the transaction price to go up. As we matured in COVID, you guys pivoted and figured out the virtual tours, showing the houses. More inventory started showing up and the price went down. What was the peak price? What was the week for the 80K peak week?
Oh, God, I'd have to look at my notes. But it was about a month ago.
Okay. It was about a month ago.
I'd have to look at my notes. But it's been coming every week. It's kind of been normalizing.
It's good. That's a healthy market.
Very healthy market. But, Michael's spot on. Where he's spot on is that if I was to dig into those numbers, and maybe we'll do this for Tuesday or next Friday, is really kind of take a look at it. I mean, we just helped a fellow real estate agent within our office who's trying to find an under $200,000 house at Lake Monticello, and they can't win because there's multiple offers.
Yeah.
And so it's really a price point driven, and we'll just constantly talk about this. It's location, price, features, and conditions.
And this goes to your point. Remember early in this, we were going back and forth, the buyer-seller's market. This gives you some ammunition to win that argument. Yeah, to win the argument, the metrics, because the metrics show that the lack of inventory gave a little more leverage than we initially anticipated or predicted for the sellers.
So my Catholic guilt is kicking in a little bit.
You're basically like, when I made this bet with this guy, I hosed this rookie who doesn't know the real estate like I did. Is that what you're about to say?
I did not say that.
That's what you were thinking.
I just feel a little guilty.
Do you think you're still going to win the bet?
Sure.
All right. What was?
No.
What was the main metric bet? Because we did 3 prongs for us, but what was the main one? It was fourth quarter.
Oh, God. I have to check my notes. Don't do that to me on the spot.
All right. Q4, 85%, over, under.
Yeah, that's right. And
over a second quarter.
That's correct. And we actually changed the dates a little bit on it.
We did.
But, I think you're
Smith is feeling really confident right now.
I think you're buying me some
Keith
bourbon.
Smith is feeling really confident right now. I like the swagger from the distinguished gentleman. Aaron Watson is watching in Glenmore. I want to say hello to the Glenmore Moms Group that is doing the loop right now.
That was so
6
awesome.
different moms and their sons or daughters, social distancing, doing the loop in Glenmore, watching Real Talk.
I am so honored. When we started, I was thinking about this. We've been doing this for 18 months.
Yeah.
And 18 months ago, I never expected it to be what it's become. And I cannot tell you.
Hard work.
Well, it's hard work, but I'm just so honored that somebody is taking time out of their walk to listen to this funny accent and us do our Batman and Robin routine.
Ray Cadell says, Keith, there's a listing under 200,000 coming on at the lake today. Heads up.
Got it. Thank you, brother.
Under 200K pocket. Is this a pocket listing?
No.
Okay. Coming on the MLS.
No, coming on the.
Got it.
You're just trying to get me into trouble again?
Let's get Quinton Beckham. I am not. It was not. It was a well-marketed, done the right way listing. Quinton Beckham on the line. Judah Whitcower, I'm going to reach out to
Ray.
him. Ray Cadell, you're good people. It's ringing now, Judah. We're going to get to Quinton. Keller Williams, love this guy. This guy's got a very great way of looking at the market and numbers. I very much enjoy Quinton Beckham.
And the thing that Quinton brings to the table, other than his awesome personality and the fact that he's going to be the incoming president for CAR, he also has a little bit of medical background, right? So he kind of thinks about this from that perspective. But just like Michael, any opportunity I get to see this guy and have a conversation with him, that's a good day for me.
Amen, brother. Judah, he's on the line. Give me that thumbs up. This is a hard-working Keller Williams broker, may love an adult beverage from time to time, loves to get on the bicycle. Love this guy, Quinton Beckham. You're live for Charlottesville. My friend, welcome to the program. We're going to get out of your way. We've covered a lot. Anywhere you want to go, and then we'll ask some questions for you. The show's yours, Quinton.
Oh, gosh. I think the most exciting current news for the show was the President Ryan's announcement that we will have students in some fashion rejoining us when the semester restarts.
I agree.
Hey, Quinton.
Hello, sir.
How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good.
Good. When was the last time you got a long ride in?
It's actually been almost a week.
Ooh.
But we have them planned again tomorrow.
I saw a picture of you the other day. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I think you just finished up a ride and you had a cigarette in your mouth. And,
are you sure I was done? That might have been in the...
That was the break. That was halftime.
And that's just one classy dude.
What was in the water bottles? What you got to ask the man.
So I tell a quick story about this. So I learned how to run marathons when I was 18 years old, and a Master Gunnery Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, taught me how to do this. Great guy, Force Recon Marine, did 5 tours in Vietnam. When you see John Wayne, that was what this guy looked like. But he taught me how to run marathons, and he used to make me smoke a cigar after every race. So I got it, and I'll tell you, I wasn't happy about it. I can tell you that much.
All I'm trying to do is break.
There you go, man. Good for you. So, what do you think about the news, man?
I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm curious to see what all of the guidelines are that surround this.
Sure.
The student population has such a huge impact on the city. When you figure, I think the last time I looked, it's like 61% of the students do not live in UVA housing. They live off grounds. They live in rentals that are privately owned because it offers a certain amount of flexibility and some amenities that you might not find in the dorms. And I'm curious with the rules that they're going to put into place, what we're going to see in that and how that's going to affect things. And I think that's going to play directly into some of the shifts that are going to come as we exit our current status with the pandemic and move into the next phases of it.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit. I think Michael handled a little bit of that, but you guys just had a broker Zoom call earlier today, and one of the topics I was planning to talk about today is the value of using a real estate agent or a realtor in a transaction, what you bring to it. And it just by coincidence, the first slide that I created was, your safety is priority number one. So can you just talk, as much as you're allowed, can you just talk about, how what the current thinking is from the brokerage level on how we could possibly reopen from a real estate perspective? Is that too much of a curveball for you, or you got it?
No more so than what I'm accustomed to from you. Honestly, we are fortunate in that while maintaining a good sense of competitiveness that helps us improve, we as brokers also recognize there are points where we are not competing. We are seeking to support our community. We're seeking to keep our clients safe and do everything within our power to honor the fiduciary duty that we have to somebody that signs up with us. And if being healthy and safe doesn't fall under that, then I don't know what we're doing. And so that was the conversation today, was we have some phase 1 guidelines reopening. We've got orders coming out from the governor. And when it was really stark, when it was just closed, that was a very simple solution. And so we were just sharing ideas of how are we going to have sellers, buyers, and agents interact in a way that meets their needs, because many of them have really compelling needs to buy or sell a home, and at the same time protects them and keeps them safe. Because the last thing we want to do is create a situation wherein an otherwise healthy person is exposed, or somebody that might be at high risk for a really bad outcome is exposed. And so we just sort of talked through that. And the truth is the the number of tools that we've developed individually as realtors and brokerages and shared with one another, and the ways in which we have determined we're going to interact between two agents work really well. They are very safe. They allow us to have a set of guidelines that it doesn't matter which broker you're with. These are shared understandings so that sellers can feel more confident that even if they're, we're selling houses that are not vacant. Yes, we're selling more vacant ones, but we're still selling houses that are not vacant. And so I think they can have a high degree of confidence that from the top down, there's a huge amount of concern for the safety and the well-being of our individual clients and our community as a whole. And you're seeing that reflected in every step.
So,
in some ways, safer than what you might see in a public venue, because our level of cooperation is so much higher.
So the takeaway is that for the folks that aren't real estate agents or realtors watching this, that that are trying to understand how we do our business, at the end of the day, safety is number one, the number one protocol. And when, even though we all wear this realtor moniker and we all are licensed real estate agents or brokers, and at some level we're competing against each other for the same limited pie, right? We all admitted listings and activity is a little hard to come by, but we work together as a team, as a betterment for the community, and we understand the value of that. So my hat's off to you guys, and particularly, the executive committee at CAR. I know you guys are working hard at that. So saying all that, what do you think about the market?
Let's talk about the market.
What do you think? What do you think it's going?
I think that's an interesting thing. The crystal ball is a little cloudier, and things are changing very quickly. So there's so many things happening at once. And I just signed on and watched sort of the tail end of your conversation with Michael. You're talking about that median price point. And if you look at just the city of Charlottesville, the monthly cost for somebody with a mortgage to own their home averages about $1,700 a month. That is almost exactly 4 weeks of unemployment with the $600 bonus, with maybe $400 left over. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what is the market we move into as federal support rolls back. Students are going to come back into town. Restaurants are starting to reopen. A lot of our service venues are starting to reopen, but not at capacity. And so we are going to have this first bump of people that return to work. But I'm wondering how long that's going to last in terms of the real estate market and how far that's going to go. And are we going to see another sort of flatline for a while? All of that being said, we've sort of felt like our market has needed to have an adjustment anyway. We've been talking about that before COVID became a word that was part of the public discussion. So it's getting wrapped into that, and it's probably not as horrible as it sounds that happened. But how people use their homes as industries change and work from home becomes more of a normalcy. And what the demands are in combination with the incomes is going to be an interesting thing to watch play out over the next
Can I ask
couple of days.
Hold on a second. Real quick, if you don't mind.
There's a lot.
So I don't know if you can see Jerry and I, what we're doing as you're talking.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
So as you said the word 1,700, very rarely I see Jerry pick up a pen.
Well, I just learned something. Quinn just taught me something.
And then we're both of us are writing notes down. So the one comment that I want to make before I pass you over to Jerry, just to kind of make it a little simplified, $1,700. That's below what you would cost to rent.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Bedroom,
Right, I was literally going to say that.
2 bath.
Stop stealing my thunder.
Sorry,
I was going to say that.
It's the chemistry. You did it to me before. Now I'm doing it now.
Let's talk about those numbers because we're talking about student housing
Sure.
as well. It's $17 to own a single-family home with a mortgage, and that could
Sure.
be attached, but a single-family home. A one-bedroom within the city limits, the average rent is $1,675. A 2-bedroom, the average rent is, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. A 2-bedroom at $1,675, and I wrote this down somewhere.
So while you're doing that, this only adds to my concern about the affordability.
Well, and I got to follow up for Quinton. Are
Sure.
you predicting? He talked about the 4 weeks of unemployment
Sure.
at $600 a pop, which is $2,400, and he compared it to the monthly mortgage average in the city of Charlottesville, which is $1,700 a month. Quinton, are you alluding that your concern of short sales and foreclosures on the horizon as cash gets tight?
I think there's an opportunity for people to be stretched very, very thin. And we are at historic low foreclosure rates, and there is very poor data on who is under forbearance and what kind of forbearance they're under.
That's an interesting thing, because one of the things I printed out this morning was NAR's Economist Outlook.
Yeah.
And they actually talk about forbearance and the track of the total forbearance loan. So this is national, and it's a week over week, but it's actually climbing.
Yeah.
It's climbing. So, but we'll talk. We'll bring up this matrix for another day. But the number of forbearances are going up.
So what does that tell you?
Well,
So I do think we are at greater risk, but you have to think about how there is a misnomer that the real estate market and the economy run in lockstep. Just like people try to judge the economy by the stock market, those do not run in lockstep. You know, if you want to imagine those things, I want you to imagine Keith walking in the stately manner in which he does through the park with a Cocker Spaniel on a very long leash.
I would love to see that.
so what's your point?
And my point is that Keith has a goal and a place he's going, and he sort of takes these measured steps, and that is our economy. Our economy moves in slow motion in ways that are predictable. Keith doesn't turn to the left or the right very often because he's hard to pay attention. He gets focused. But the little Cocker Spaniel on this large list is everything else we're talking about. And it's going to run over here, and it's going to pull back this way, and then it's going to run ahead and get frightened, and then it's going to come back, and it's going to want some attention. And they're both going to eventually get to the same place, but the path that they take to get there is going to be very different. So every time you see something happen in the stock market, remember that's the Cocker Spaniel. And when we are talking about real estate versus the economy, real estate can be the Cocker Spaniel, a much older Cocker Spaniel. It doesn't have quite the level of jumping and running as a stock market. But it's going to move around in ways that might not necessarily relate exactly to what we see. So if I think of just the economy, there's a lot of things that make me anxious about the economy. If you figure we have roughly 1 out of 11 people in the nation unemployed and receiving benefits. 1 out of 11. And that's not saying 1 out of 11 people who are in the job market, 1 out of 11 total. So that's quite a number. Out of that, 10, it's like 9.8%. Unless Congress moves, which we don't have any real inclination that's going to happen quickly, they're going to receive a 63% cut in their monthly income in the coming weeks. Okay? So then you have, now let's look at the Cocker Spaniel of the stock market, where we have companies posting profits. They're posting profits, and they're going to continue to post profits. And many of them are going to do it through furloughs and a reduction of staff, either because they need to or want to maintain a profit. What business doesn't want to be profitable? Or because they're in the same situation as the restaurants that have specific limitations on who they can be employed. So we are going to have this shift where restrictions are lifted, and some of these 30 to 40 million people that are unemployed are going to return to work, but not all of them. And others are going to leave.
So
there's a little bit of a teeter-totter going there. And you asked me what I see in the crystal ball, and the crystal ball's a little cloudier because Congress could step in and do something.
Or not.
You know, heaven forbid the federal government ever surprises me, because, you know, if that happened. But it's hard to know what they're going to do. For us locally, we're experiencing something similar. UVA is the powerhouse for the Charlottesville economy. And there has been reduction of staff in nursing staff because of COVID. They're starting to come back up and come off furlough as other services resume. But you also have the academic side that has eaten through a lot of reserve funds, letting people stay at home while being paid, and now has to decide if they can work again, or do they need to furlough them without pay to make up that difference, or maybe even cut positions. And that's going to have a really direct impact on us. Think of the corner and how it's going to operate in social distancing.
It's funny you should say that. Last Friday, I walked from the studio up to the corner, and when I left the studio walking up West Main, everybody had a mask on. As soon as I got to the corner, that stopped. It was rather frightening,
right.
But I was taking notes as you were speaking. So this is what I heard. One, I need more therapy, apparently, because I'm a little bit too laser focused, and I'm old. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Only one of those statements.
The therapy
right.
one, or the old one. Who knows? But you and I have this debate all the time, right? You know, you're looking more macro. I'm looking a little bit more micro, a little bit around Charlottesville, but they both kind of blend a little bit. But the picture you painted, that UVA, which we now know they're making their attempts to open back up, right? This is nothing but a great thing.
Oh, it's so
right?
positive.
But that UVA is the government, right? Is this
the city of UVA?
Excuse me?
It's the city of UVA.
That's exactly right, and it's this heart that does that. So, thank you for trying to put that in a different narrative than we've been using. I know Jerry's been dying to ask a bunch of questions, so I'm going to let him pass over, and then I'll wrap up.
Well, I love his. I mean, he looks at things like you said, macro. I love his economic insight. What do you make of rates?
Yeah.
This is a hot topic. Quinton, it seems that increasing rates from a lot of people's perspective is the antithesis of how to get home sales going. I'm on the other side of the fence. Let's increase rates. Let's let the banks make some money, and let's loosen the credit markets a little more. I'm curious on your thoughts on that topic.
Yeah. One, I don't think the banks don't make money off of rates. It is the intermediaries to whom they sell the loans that make those monies. So, again, we're talking a micro level being impacted from above. At some point, FHA will allow people to be evicted and foreclosed upon. And then we will see how the world acts. We are keeping rates down because in the past, when you reduce rates for credit across the board, the economy picks up. And you're not going to see that in this. I don't think rates going up or down are going to change the path dramatically in any way that's going to affect it. Because the reason the Fed chairman is standing in front of Congress saying you have to intervene is because their typical levers to change the economy are not effective in this situation. We change rates to increase demand to create the economic flywheel so that companies meet that demand. The demand right now is not for anything new. It's for meeting what we already have. So levering rates up or down, I don't think is going to have a huge effect. What is going to have an effect is the overlays on who can receive. I apologize, my computer's going to make some noises. Having a rate of 4.5% versus 3.5% is not going to be the issue. The issue is going to be qualifying for the loan. So if as the money tightens up, what banks actively do is they apply more overlays. They worry more about your debt to income ratio. And so the people that maybe, in a household of 2 workers, this person got their hours reduced, but this person kept working. They didn't get government subsidy. They didn't get the $1,200 check because they're still making too much money. But now they've dipped into credit. So now the overlay kicks in because their debt to income ratio has changed. And the person with the reduced rate reduced workload might not go back. So there's a lot of those things that are going to happen that I think are going to impact how we sell houses in the future. And I think in the coming 12 months, you're going to see that, I hate to say this, that missing middle that we're always talking about. That's
of course.
do this. And I'm hopeful that as all of these stressors play out, if you look at rents is a good thing to watch. Rents
want to jump in.
Let me throw this to you here, and Keith wants to jump in here. Okay, let's say it goes down the road. The Fed is saying, Congress step in. We need another round of stimulus, and we need another round of stimulus ASAP. And we're reading the tea leaves. That stimulus could be even larger for families than it was the first round. So let's say another round of stimulus comes up. People get the $1,200. They're talking about maybe $1,200 for kids now as well. Okay? If that happens, another round of stimulus, how does that impact the market, do you think?
I think that helps because what we need is what, by my opinion, there are parts of our economy that are not just doing well, but we need them to happen to keep people in housing, fed, healthcare coverage, all the things, kids in school, all that sort of jazz. And the kinds of stimulus that happen through unemployment and those checks and the stuff that we're talking about go exactly to the people who are going to spend the money. Changing rates doesn't change that. So if you see what I'm talking about with different levers, I want people to go out and spend money. I want to spin up that flywheel. When people are spending money, consumer confidence goes up, period. And this is easy to do when gas prices are low because petroleum sits sort of at the base of 80% of everything. And so the dollar that is handed out today is worth more economically than if it had been handed out in December.
So our primary topic for today was supposed to be the value of using a realtor and a real estate agent in a buying and selling. So I'm going to ask Judah to put up slide 4. So one of the values that we bring to the table is exactly what you're articulating is, to know that your purchaser who's going to buy your house is qualified. So next Tuesday, actually, we're bringing in some brokers because the underwriting has, in the last few weeks, completely changed, right? The credit scores have gone up. The requirements for underwriting, it is becoming far more complicated to get a loan than it was several weeks ago. Now, if you read some of these articles, which you and I we're all in this show and we're all geeks and we dive into this information, but it's funny because VA and FHA are predicting 3% or less than 3% in 2021. That's what they're paying. But the conventional loans are becoming super hard to get. The jumbo loans, you may know this number. Michael asked me, I couldn't remember. I believe it's south of 600. Is that?
It's in the low fives. I want to say it's 540 something.
Not too long ago, that was in the sevens. Right? So now, and that is, so what's happening through all these regulators and all these underwriters, that they're making the middle, as we talked about, even harder to buy. So when we start going ahead and tweaking the numbers for next thing of this that we've been talking about, I'm going to look a little bit more in the middle in that slice, and I bet you you're going to see, I know we see it in our world, I know we see it in your world. It's hard to find a home.
3 to 5, 3 to 5.5.
Talking about value wise,
anything
from zero, right, up to $300,000, $400,000. It's just impossible. I mean, is that your experience?
That is my experience, and I will give you a piece of good news. Is some of why these overlays are being applied is because rates went down again, and there was a rush of people to refinance, and the banks had too much going on between this and idle and
That's
PPP.
exactly right.
And they did some rate changes, they did some credit score changes to slow it down.
Right.
That's going to lighten up, and the banks are going to open the doors
I
wider.
had a very enlightening conversation with a couple of brokers, mortgage brokers, a couple of days ago. It's almost impossible to get a refi right now. You've got to pretty much, you got to walk on water in order to get that done. And they were saying the credit scores are up. I mean, I believe was like 750 or some really high number. Otherwise, it's an automatic rejection, right? They don't even want to talk about it. So it's funny. I think you're going to see the federal government, the VA, FHA folks, kind of pushing the market at this low rate, and you're going to see the conforming loans or the conventional loans kind of trying to slow things down. It's a weird dynamic, but this is why you need somebody like Quinton, like Yonna and I. You need a trusted advisor. This stuff is pretty complicated, high-level stuff. And if you're trying to sell your house on your own and you don't know what your potential buyer's financial picture is like and what kind of loan to get, more than likely it's going to fall apart on that end of it. But that's for another show.
And I think you want somebody that's really dug into it, because I was having a conversation with a investor client of mine just yesterday, and we were imagine he's got $2 million to spend, and some bad things happen in the housing market, which provides some opportunity for him. What do we want him to buy, and what do we want it to turn into? And it led into this really interesting conversation about transportation and how close do we want it to be, and conversations about, we've moved, most homes now are a large open space, a great room with a kitchen somewhere in the quadrant, and 3 bedrooms down a hallway. And I have watched my friends over the last 8 weeks try to work from their coffee tables and dining room tables. And most of my friends are not young, and they're hurting and they're tired. And when they were doing it 2 hours a week, it was fun. But now they're doing it 35.
Oh my God, we're in nonstop meetings, right? Yeah,
correct. And I have the good fortune of living alone and having a real office. So what does the post-pandemic house look like? And it's sort of changing that conversation in terms of how that space is put together, and how do we build a house that's in a price point that would sell. And so I'm very, very hopeful that all of these pressures, and I think hearing some of the guidelines from UVA as they come out might actually be informative, because it's going to tell us how population is going to flow. This is going to be something that if we pay attention to, we could develop the right houses. We could do it in a way that lets city citizens be in the city where their job is without kicking the students out. So there is.
So Quinton, thank you, brother. We are
amazing.
We are like 5 minutes past our time, and thank you for Jerry and Judah for giving us this time, because you and I could probably do this for another couple hours. I forgot there's cameras watching us at the moment.
I thought we went until 2.
Quinton, I learned from you. Seriously, dude. Whenever you come on here, I learn from you. Same with you, Michael.
Yeah.
You were strong today. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. We'll do this again.
Yeah,
Thank
Quinton
you.
Beckham, Keller Williams, strong.
Always learn something from him. You
Yeah.
know, we're when a guest says something and you and I immediately pull up a pen to write something down, then we know that that's a pearl of wisdom. So
1,700 monthly mortgage average in the city of Charlottesville.
yeah,
The rental rate's right there.
well, rental rate's a little higher than
Why
that.
not buy? Why not go trust?
I mean, that's exactly right. Find a trusted advisor. Let us help you go ahead and do that. Why pay? And that's
Build
why,
a savings account instead of paying somebody else's mortgage.
Oh, amen to that. And but the struggle with that is the rental dollar amount with the 80% AMI for affordable is around $1,200, and that just doesn't exist.
No.
So,
Dude, it's brutal, man. Something that you're passionate about.
I am a little bit.
It's getting worse.
I've been predicting that. Nobody wants to listen to me. This is going to get worse. This is not going to get better.
The wealth gap is huge and getting larger.
It is.
Final word, anywhere you want to go?
Next, I'm glad that Quinton brought this up. Next Tuesday, we're going to bring in some mortgage guys to talk about what the new normal is as far as mortgages, and get that information out there. A lot of people are thinking, if they're seeing the FHA and VA at 3%, everything else is 3%.
Right. That's not the case.
That is not the case.
Yeah,
so
that's not the
get
case.
that
I see why the mistake is made. It's confusing. That's why you go with the advisor.
That's why you get a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just. But anyway, you know, I know.
Is that Tuesday show?
That's Tuesday's show. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then you and I are going to do a little bit of Keith and Jerry.
I love it. We're back in the saddle Tuesday, 10:15 for Real Talk, an insider's guide to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, powered by the Yes Team Realtors. We are excited to be with you. Thank you kindly for joining us.
So we got really super passionate about this show, and we didn't kind of give a shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah.
But they stroll along the bottom. They're all local folks. Please support them.
Scott Morris,
That's exactly
Roy
right.
Wheeler Realty Company,
That's exactly
Bill
right.
Tucker and Charlottesville Settlement Company,
That's exactly
Marie Bett.
Yeah, and one of our new sponsors is the Chris Henry Group over there at
Dairy Market.
Dairy Market, right? And we're super excited about that opportunity. I'm trying to get them on.
I was going to say, you are?
Yeah.
Good.
We're working on it.
Because it's soon.
It's soon, but when he's ready.
Yeah, he's got a lot on his plate.
He's got a lot on his plate.
Chris Henry's guys, he and his team, the folks behind Dairy Market on
We're
Preston
doing a
Avenue.
couple projects together with them. And
You're doing one in Fluvanna, aren't you?
yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anytime I've ever worked with these guys, it's super professional.
Oh, they got it buttoned up.
Love working with them.
Real Talk, guys, powered by the Yes Team Realtors. Thank you kindly for joining us. Have a good weekend. We have a video. You ready?
I'm ready when you're ready.
Jude, are you ready?
Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
Jude Wickower, let's cue it up in 3, 2, and 1.
Look at that.